Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Today we have a special report about the Chinese Communist Party's infiltration in communities in the U.S. One district leader says the Chinese Communist Party has infiltrated her New York City community. She says the regime is using the media and thugs to target and harass vulnerable people there. Martha Flores Vazquez has been elected to lead her district for over 20 years. NTD's Paul Graney sat down with her to hear exactly how the CCP is working against her community and what she's doing to stop it.
A dark shadow cast across America. Infamous for its oppressive and cruel ways in China, the Communist Party now shamelessly terrorizing innocent people right here on U.S. soil. It's happening in broad daylight. But one fearless fighter is saying no. For the victims, Martha Flores Vazquez represents courage and love. An elected district leader for over 2 decades, an old-school New Yorker. She says the Chinese regime has infiltrated her community, and she won't stand for it. This is NTD, and I'm Paul Graney. Each district in New York City has its own district leader. It's a voluntary role. For the past 22 years, one district in Queens, New York has chosen Martha Flores Vazquez.
Hi, I'm District Leader Martha Flores Vazquez, and
She's a trained psychologist who simply likes to help the people in her community. Several years ago, someone told her that the Chinese Communist Party was targeting and attacking vulnerable people in her district. Since then, she's been on a mission to stop it. Martha Flores Vazquez, thanks for coming on to TD. Great to speak with you.
thank you. It's the honor is mine.
You took action on the communist flags that were previously flown during the parades in Flushing, which, just to remind our viewers, is a heavily Asian area. They no longer waved the communist flags during those parades. What happened there?
They're not allowed to do that because they're viewed as troublemakers. They're viewed as people that come to interfere and interrupt the parade. So we don't want people interrupting the parade. So that's how they identify themselves, and that's how we can identify a troublemaker that's potentially dangerous.
What was the process to getting that done?
Reporting it to the DA's office, to the police, and the police just taking a stance finally. It took a while. It took a while.
Why?
Well, you know, like they say, until somebody dies, well, until they saw many injuries, until they saw people getting injured, that's when it became, hey, enough is enough.
What kind of violence did you see, and how did you tie it to the Chinese Communist Party?
We tie it to the Chinese Communist Party because they're very blatant. They carry banners, they carry flags, they attack the Fallong Dafa community verbally and physically. They're not afraid to do that. But now we have police dogs. We have like an entire army out there on the day of the parade, which is very honorable.
Fallong Dafa, or Fallong Gong, is a traditional Chinese meditation practice. Its practitioners aim to be truthful, kind, and tolerant. It became so popular in China in the 1990s that the communist regime began a campaign to stomp it out. Since then, countless Fallong Dafa practitioners have been arrested, tortured, and murdered by the regime. It even harvests the organs of living Fallong Dafa practitioners for profit. Now, you mentioned the Fallong Dafa community. It's persecuted in China itself. Who exactly, other than them, if there is anyone, is being targeted there? And how does the CCP's efforts manifest? Who do they pay people to do it? Do they send people from China? How does it work?
I'm not sure exactly how it works. What I do know is that we're infiltrated in Flushing. Even when they want to have a happy event, any type of celebration on the steps of the library, they show up, they destroy their tables, their banners, very upsetting. But the DA's office has gotten involved, Melinda Katz. And I think that few people got in a lot of trouble where they ended up with community service, if they violate orders of protection. And I think that's good because it's viewed as a hate crime.
Was there a particular event or piece of violence that kind of spurred this change in how things are done there?
Well, there were many individuals where they drew blood out of some of the practitioners down by the library. That was one of the first incidents that I witnessed. We had to rush people to the hospital. We had to rush an NTV camera woman as well was tasered.
One of our own camera people?
Yes, she was tasered. And I was called. I get all the calls because I'm the district leader. So when there's trouble, they call me. I call the police. There's an intervention. And we try to prevent as much crime as possible. But you have to say something. You have to say something. Even I got attacked because I was holding a Fallong Dafa pamphlet. And they confused me as being one of the Fallong Gan Community.
By who? Who attacked you?
The communists.
This is a man?
Those
like
individuals who kept a table on the streets of Flushing Main Street.
This was some gentleman came and attacked you
A little
physically?
group. A little group.
A group of people?
A little group. And then when I said, I'm the district leader, what's wrong with you? This needs to stop. I'm going to call the police right now. They apologize. Oh. We thought that you were Fallong Dafa community, the Fallong Gong.
This was in
And I'm like,
Queens,
even
New
if I
York.
was, you're not allowed to do that.
This was in Queens, New York,
In Flushing.
in broad daylight.
In the heart of my district.
Did that surprise you?
I was surprised that they would do that to me. I mean, I never thought that I would encounter a situation like that in my own district. But I stood up for myself.
I'm sure.
And I stood up for Fallong Gong.
Was this during a parade?
No, it was a normal day, a regular day in New York City. They used to keep a table out there. I believe they no longer have that table out there.
What
Because
table is that exactly?
It's a table against, asking people to join the Communist Party. Yeah, the CCP.
That's interesting because if a person wants to apply to come to America, to become an American, or to even, I believe, to get any visa to enter America, they have to confirm and declare that they've never been a member of the Communist Party. So it's interesting that in Queens, New York, they had a table trying to sign people up for
They
this.
had more than one table for a very, very long time, until they got so violent that even the police wouldn't tolerate it anymore.
In China, the Communist Party seeks to control and censor every type of information that includes newspapers, television, and the internet. Unlike the Soviet Union before it, the Chinese regime also tries to influence and manipulate people in other countries. The White House recently announced a task force to counter the Chinese regime's transnational repression. That's the targeting and harassing of people outside of China. Now, you've been a district leader since 2002, over 20 years. When did you realize that the CCP had such an influence in your area, and how did you realize?
Well, it gets political. You know, there's politics and everything. And when the Fallong Dafa community started reaching out to the local elected officials, there was one councilman who then became a senator, Tony Abella. I think he was the only one that publicly acknowledged and showed up to support the Fallong Dafa community. I think that the political leaders in my district, because the media is also CCP, possibly. I'm not going to say exactly that they are, but they do behave like they are. They've tried to discourage me from supporting the Fallong Dafa community. They try to change my mind about the truth that I know, and I know the truth. I've heard the stories. Even people that are non-Asian have told me that they've been in China and witnessed the brutalization. the persecution. So it's real. I mean, this is real. Just everybody coming out and speaking up.
Now, on the Fallong Gong themselves, they've been heavily demonized as part of the CCP's persecution campaign against them, both in China and overseas. You've dealt with them, you say you've helped them for many years now. What has been your impression of them as a group?
I think that one of my impressions is that they don't come here to be depressed. They don't come here to be scared. They come here for freedom. And it breaks my heart every time that I sit down with one of the individuals from the Falun Dafa community, Fallong Gan Community. It breaks my heart to hear the stories that not only have they suffered abroad, but that they're suffering here. And that sometimes they can't even rent an apartment, or they can't even get a job like anybody else. That it's very restricted. Their freedom is very restricted here, but that will not be tolerated here in New York.
In China, communist agents are told to attack Falun Gong practitioners by destroying them physically, bankrupting them financially, and ruining their reputations. So, many practitioners have been fired from their jobs, been kicked out of their homes, or forced out of school. Now, that's something we're used to hearing about in China. They find it hard to get a job or an apartment. You're saying that that's happening?
That happens here because it's an Asian district. I can only speak about my Asian district. So that happens here. Unless they go to Americans or, another community where they can feel more comfortable.
But what happens and how? How does that happen?
Well, just blacklisted. You're blacklisted.
Because you're Falun Gong, even here in Queens, New York.
Yeah.
And this is, CCP are able to influence just landlords, business owners?
Yes, because they go around saying these people are crazy. There's nothing crazy about a wonderful, healthy meditation practice. There's nothing crazy about that. They're crazy. They try to tell me they're crazy. And I have a degree in psychology, so I know what crazy is. And they're not crazy.
How do they do it? You mentioned earlier about controlling and influencing the media. Is this how they do it? They put propaganda or demonization through the media, and then landlords, business owners won't deal with it?
Those people are crazy. And because I'm a district leader, I hear the complaints. And I find out who is it that they're trying to attack? Who is it that they're roadblocking for success in the community? Or that they're just not being nice to.
Can you remember a particular story of a local Falun Dafa practitioner or anybody else who's been targeted by the communist regime in your area? Can you remember a particular story that stands out to you?
Well, I remember a businessman in my community that was really good to everyone in the community. He was really good. And he would allow the Fallong Gan community to meet in his office because there's limited space and it's hard to rent or get a space because it's saturated with CCP in Flushing, saturated, particularly around that time. And next thing you know, they're surveilling him, they're surveilling his business, they're following him, they're calling him, they're threatening him. So he became a target until he had to go against his will and stop supporting the Fallong Gong community. And they were homeless from a safe haven location where they could speak and congregate. So it's very sad. It's very sad that this is the reality. And he lost his business, ultimately. He lost his business. His business was boycotted across the board. He's no longer in my district.
Who boycotted him?
The CCP community. A successful, wonderful businessman that wanted to be good to everyone, that respected everyone's views and he allowed the Fallong Gan community to come and congregate there. And then they just, they put fear in people. And then they hide away, they go away, they stop helping, they stop being supportive.
You said that things like being denied a job because you're Falun Gong practitioner, not getting an apartment is something that you won't stand for. What exactly can people like yourself or these people who are being unfairly treated, what can they actually do?
I make a phone call. They come to me, I make a phone call. They can call my hotline, 718-909-4634. I make a phone call. I'm very strong, I'm very powerful, I take action. I'm a public service person, I will not allow that. But I can tell you that some of the Fallong Gong community has even reported to me, even business people that support the Fallong Gong community, that there's been surveillance on them, cameras watching them, watching their remove.
Here in Queens?
In Queens, yes. Cameras watching and invading their privacy. So that's how serious it is.
It's just incredible.
Yes. Yes. And those incidents, those situations, they are reportable. No one is supposed to be probing anybody. Nobody is supposed to be making anybody feel that level of discomfort. This is a free country where you can come and go as you please. Practice your meditation, whatever you want. It's your choice, nobody else's.
Have you ever been threatened yourself or felt intimidated for standing up for these?
Only the day of that incident, but I also feel sometimes that when I stand on the steps of the library or when I walk through the streets of Flushing during the parade, I feel that one day somebody's going to try to hurt me too. But I'm very spiritual. I believe God's always with me, protecting me. So I believe that I have a protector greater than myself. So I fear no one. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. And there's a lot of police presence. So that makes me feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I have cameras. I have cameras in my apartment. If you come to my door, you're gonna be on camera.
The Chinese regime has killed Falun Gong practitioners at will. Within the first 5 years of the persecution, the oldest recorded victim was 82 years old, the youngest just 10 months old. Families have been devastated. Some children have lost both parents. Can you give an example of a story of someone who came from China and has been enduring this type of oppression or pressure here in Queens, a particular person's story who's come to you perhaps?
Well, I can talk about my dear friend Jane Dye. When I first met her, she told me her story. They killed her husband. They persecuted her husband. And her mission has been to talk about the situation. She even has a documentary to educate the public. This happened to me, this happened to my family, this happened to my husband. He's separated from me and my daughter now. So sometimes she'll go on Main Street, to help the ladies get out the message, give out the pamphlets. And she has been there and witnessed incidents of violence. And thank God that she's able to access me quickly, and I'm able to access the police quickly, and they get there and they intervene. But sometimes after there's a lot of damage, somebody has been injured or the property has been destroyed, and we open up cases.
So she's an example of somebody who's come from China
Yes.
to Queens, New York.
And is still experiencing this, which is traumatic because it could bring about a lot of post-traumatic stress from what she went through, and now she's here to be in a better place, and it's still going on. So that's bad. Anybody that has rescued themselves by getting away from it and coming here should not be subject to that. should not be subject to witnessing similarly what happened back home here.
Do you feel that the Fallong Gong practitioners, because of their faith or their practice, have been able to weather this storm in any way?
Yes, they are amazing. It's the most humble community of people that I've ever met in my life. Just standing next to a Fallong Gong practitioner just makes me feel calmness. They're just very spiritual beings, and they're just very harmonious and very honest, very clean, honorable, innocent, that should not be victims, ever, because they won't hurt a fly.
From being with them, what allows them to have these characteristics?
They continue honoring the practice of Fallong Dafa, the meditation. They continue, and they continue pushing it forward and rising. They've come very far.
We see that on a national level. A man was recently sentenced to prison. He was working with Verizon, and he was using his influence and his workplace to spy on minorities, not just Falun Gong, but other persecuted minorities who are persecuted by the Chinese Communist Party. We also had another gentleman who was just charged for trying to bribe the IRS to take away Shenyun's non-profit status. I know you're aware of these two instances. Did it surprise you to hear that this kind of overseas oppression was on such a national level in the United States?
Well, from the local to the global, I always say, and these practices and these behaviors, they go cross country. So I am not surprised that someone would do anything to interrupt even a beautiful program such as the Shenyun program. I'm not surprised that that would happen. I'm not surprised that they would try to stop it at the heart of the IRS, because that's how they injure the promotion of this program. That does not surprise me. What will surprise me is if the IRS does not acknowledge and understand that this is why it's happening. It's political, and there's no place, because there are no politics in the Fallong Gan community. There are none. They're not political. As a matter of fact, I'm the only one that encourages them to vote. Says you have to vote to empower yourself. That your vote is your voice. I always tell them, it's so many of you. Empower yourself through your vote, so that you can make real change.
To escape persecution, many Falun Gong practitioners fled to America. Here they started businesses and organizations to raise awareness about what's happening in China. Shenyun Performing Arts is one of these organizations. It tours the world presenting a China as it existed before communism. It also exposes the regime's human rights abuses. Over 1 million people watch the show globally every year. We spoke a little offline. You mentioned the message of Shenyun is something that the Communist Party do not want people to hear and to know about. In the 16 years that you've seen it, how would you describe that message?
Shenyun is to heighten the awareness, to let people know of the pain and suffering, the division with family, the separation of families. I think that their message is to also promote their culture, their beautiful culture. And I think it's one of the most magnificent programs that I've ever seen in my life, with the colors and the dance, and just, it doesn't even have to be verbal, just everything that they do is just so perfect.
I believe during one Shenyun show you spoke with a French lady, and this left quite an impression on you. Is that correct?
I think it was a Frenchman.
Frenchman, yeah.
Yeah, and he informed me that he witnessed the persecution. He witnessed that he happened to be in China, and he was exposed to what the police was doing, They took away everybody's cameras so that there would be no witnessing, no evidence of what they were doing. So it's real. This is a tourist that went over there, came back, and he said, this is real. What I'm watching here is real because I witnessed it. They took my camera. They gave him his camera, took the roll out. And they told him he had to leave, and he was so intimidated that he left. But he witnessed they were beating up the Fallong Dafa community, Fallong Gan community there. For holding a banner.
Did this conversation give you a better understanding of what's happening in
It gave me the reality that it's not just the Fallong Gong community talking about it, that it's a bystander. When there's a bystander, it's very credible because it's somebody that was a bystander and a witness.
So you've watched Shenyun for 16 years. What is it about this show that keeps bringing you back again?
Every year, they have a new way of getting out their message, and it's not more of the same. It's more and more creative with the art, the music, the fabric of the outfits that they wear, the inspirational style of how they present their message, and it just makes me feel a sense of calmness. When I go there, I'm very relaxed. It's a very peaceful moment for me in my life to be there and get away from everything. Very harmonious, very spiritual.
Is there any particular experience that is standout for you?
My experience was being there with my granddaughter, and my granddaughter looking at these beautiful colors and performances and learning about Fallong Gong, because she needs to know about every culture that exists in the United States and globally. So it's an educational process for my grandchildren that they can pass on to their children, and so that when they meet friends from the Fallong Gong community, they can be warm and kind, because that's what we need in the world. We need kindness.
Did she like the show, your granddaughter?
Yes, yes, and I'm hoping to bring her again.
Yeah, what did she say about it?
She said, oh, Grandma, this is beautiful. Maybe I can dance like this. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So she went on to learn ballet.
Because of the show?
I think so. I mean, that was one of the things that inspired her. So it's an inspirational program in the arts.
Martha Flores Vazquez, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul. It's been an honor to be here.
That was New York District Leader Martha Flores Vazquez. She's been dealing with the Chinese Communist Party's bullying and discrimination in her own community in Flushing, New York. But she's fighting back, and successfully at that. For more stories on the Chinese regime's attempts to influence American society, you can visit ntd.com. Thanks for watching NTD. As always, I'm Paul Greeny.
You can watch the full episode on ntd.com. Thanks for watching. Our China in Focus news team wish you and your family a safe new year.